Okay, I don't know how to start this one. Welcome everybody to another Wildrose podcast. The Game Awards was last week, and we're talking about Game of the Year shit.
It was 2 days ago.
Well, yeah, but it's...
Shh, you're ruining the illusion.
It's the same week.
It's not live.
It's Saturday.
We're not doing this live.
This won't be out till Monday or Tuesday.
Well, whatever.
It was a few days ago.
Jeez. Fine.
You can't upload a podcast on a Saturday.
Well, I mean...
What podcasts have you seen that upload on Saturdays?
I don't know.
Shush, Rob.
I'm not being sarcastic. I don't know of any.
Really?
All the weekly ones I follow are either Monday or Friday.
Weird.
Well, then this will be going up on Monday.
There you go.
Okay, then. Fine.
We're in the vaunted company of the McElroys.
Fine, everyone's ganging up on me.
Or maybe Tuesday will circumvent the competition.
Oh, shit. We'll be the only competition. You can only listen to podcasts live.
Oh, shit.
That's what's so great about them.
So, the Game Awards was a couple days ago. Game of the Year was God of War. Congratulations to them and,
You did it.
that studio.
You did it. You did the thing.
I had a feeling it would be God of War or Red Dead. I was actually kind of surprised it wasn't
sad
Red
it
Dead.
wasn't Red Dead. Oh.
I think Red Dead, what it ultimately came down to was the impact the game had on, like, a lasting... Because people talked about God of War for, like, months.
Yeah.
And Red Dead's already become like, oh, that game was amazing, but I'm playing this now.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, like, sort of, like, a hype factor, too. Like, I mean, Red Dead, people were excited for it, but they pretty much knew what to expect.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not as plugged in as some people, but God of War, like, the acclaim that thing got just seemed to sort of come out of nowhere. Like, it just came out, everyone was like, oh shit, it's a good reboot.
Yeah.
It's actually good.
Yeah, especially since, like you just said, it is a reboot. Like, it's not, even though it, in terms of its, like, storytelling, it is a continuation. It is effectively God of War 4. In terms of gameplay, it's completely different than the other games did it.
Yeah.
So it's...
Well, it's like a different source of mythology, too, which I think is cool.
Yeah, they went to, I think...
I think it's like Norse.
Yeah, Norse mythology. It used to be Greek.
Mm-hmm.
It used to really piss Jordan off because he's really big into Greek mythology.
See, I'm really big into Norse mythology, so...
Well, to my understanding, is he's played the new God of War and he likes it. But we played, it never actually got uploaded. It's another abandoned thing. But Jordan and I played the first God of War on the channel years ago. We recorded like maybe only 4 or 5 episodes. And he lost all motivation to play, not because he wasn't necessarily enjoying it.
Did they get something wrong?
Because they just kept having wrong information.
Yeah, I've been there.
For real? Come on.
I can't blame him.
Well, I mean...
No, I mean, I get it to a certain degree, but I mean, you can't, like, completely judge a game by that, right? Like, all of it's suggestive, right? Like, what if it... I don't know, what if it just didn't fit with, like, the plot or the story or something like that? People are gonna make tweaks and anything when it comes to artistry, like making games and stuff like that, right? But, I mean, they're using it as a guideline. They don't... Why do we necessarily have to follow it to its precise...
Yeah, I mean, like, that's become, like, more and more my stance on, like, adaptations and all that, but I do remember absolutely hating Blade Runner for the first half because they changed the Rosens to the Tyrells. And I was mad.
A big example of that would be, like, look at how beloved Disney's Hercules is when it's nothing. Like,
yeah,
really
got, like, everything wrong.
Yeah.
If they got everything right, it would not be a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, God of War, won Game of the Year, good for them. Congratulations. This might sound a little conceited, but I don't really remember too much about all the other awards. The only one that sticks out to me was actually Best Indie Debut was The Messenger.
Yeah.
Well, there was like Best Esports, Overwatch won that one.
Yeah, I like
the third year in a row or something.
And then Monster Hunter won the Best RPG award, which I think was awesome because that was a good game too. It was a nomination for Game of the Year as well too.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it won like the Best RPG because like I actually pretty enjoyed that game, so it was a lot of fun. And then what were the other ones I remember? Well, they did like a bunch of different kinds of awards. Like they actually did like awards on like YouTube
Yeah, like they had the best content
streamer,
creator.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. And then they had the best esports like player.
Yeah,
Which that guy was fucking hilarious.
Well, that guy's got a huge following now because of his appearance on the Game
He was
Awards.
awesome.
He was. You could tell he was very excited, and he didn't know he'd win, and like it was very authentic.
Yeah.
But he was kind of socially inept a little bit, but I think that's because of how. Like the adrenaline rush, he didn't know he'd be up on stage getting an award.
Yeah. That's like the one good thing about awards is just like unexpected hijinks.
Yeah.
Like when Arcade Fire won their Grammy, Win Butler just got up on stage, he started, holy shit!
Or when Joseph Ferris last year said "fuck the Oscars."
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
They had him back. Like he was the first guest. And they even said, like, oh, he was a little crazy last year, but here he is again. And he was like, yeah, I was so excited last year.
Or like
maybe slightly intoxicated.
Like when he was on the Flames, Yuri Hoodler won the Lady Byng Trophy at the NHL Awards. He came up like not wearing shoes, and then like years later, he got arrested for being on coke on a flight and threatening stewardesses. But whatever, the award thing was fun.
Yeah, this guy was. I think his username was Sonic Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Sonic Fox,
He was. I liked his comment right as he was walking off stage, where he's like,
"Hi, Mom.
I'm a furry. I'm black, and I'm gay.
He said
I really
super
should not
gay.
be winning
He
this
said
award."
super gay. No, he said. I think was it liberals? I think.
Yeah.
He said, liberals hate.
No, Republicans.
Republicans. Yeah. Republicans hate everything that I am. So, but I thought as soon as I saw him with the fursuit, I was like, oh my goodness, I guess he's actually a furry. But I thought it was pretty cute. Yeah, his receiving the award was pretty entertaining. I had a good giggle out of that. So.
I didn't expect. I can't remember his name. The comedian that gave him the award. I didn't expect him there. He plays like the main protagonist on Community, the lawyer guy.
Oh, Joel McHale.
Yeah. He was the one giving out the award.
They even had Jonah Hill on there.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the Russo brothers.
Yeah.
And then I was like, they're going to play this off like as they walk off stage, they're going to show a trailer for Avengers 4. And then they didn't, but then one day later there was a trailer for Avengers 4.
I mean that's all still sort of like the same vein of a celebrity. Like they're all sort of vaguely nerdy.
That is true.
Yeah.
Like what's Joel McHale done since Community? There was that comedy he did with Stephen Fry about how much millennials suck.
Ouch.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't remember. There was the best performance for voice actors.
Yeah.
And do you remember his name?
I don't remember his name.
I'm
But
bad.
it's the voice actor who did Arthur in RDR2.
Yeah.
He won an award for that, which I was like super excited because Yuri Lowenthal was another nominee for that part as well too. And as soon as I saw his name, I was like, Yuri, and then right after it showed Arthur, I'm like, Arthur. Because I still haven't fully finished the game. I'm in like the epilogue portion of it, which like I'm not going to say anything for anyone who hasn't played the game yet, but like that performance that actor gave, like it was like it made me cry, it made me laugh, it made me angry, like it just the whole wave of emotions like when you're playing that game. So like him like his performance as an actor was like really good. So I'm really happy that they won that award. But even though Red Dead didn't win Game of the Year, they did win 3 awards. They won the award for the best narrative, I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah,
that sounds
and then music.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and then they did.
They had a band there perform their like theme song, so I'm pretty.
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they won best narrative, best music, and then best actor. So which was good. So, but I'm just,
I could tell.
Didn't win Game of the Year.
I haven't gotten to that point myself in the game either, but I do know about it because of like you playing the game and your sister telling me about it and blah blah blah. So there's a point in the game where Arthur Morgan, the character, his acting would have had to have been on point for everybody to love that moment. The only reason I say that is because you could tell at the Game Awards that was the moment that was like, we can't show you this, but this is why he won, right? Like you could tell they were dancing around what segment of the game made them go, no, he's going to win.
Yeah.
Because like they kept showing scenes of like, again, I can't remember his name, the actor that won, the guy who plays Arthur Morgan, they kept showing scenes from the game with Arthur Morgan, and they were all scenes from like the first 2 hours of gameplay where he's not a bad actor by any means, but they were hardly like emotional or energetic or anything.
Yeah.
And I could just tell they were sort of dancing around. We can't show the scene that we really liked because it would spoil it for everyone who hasn't played the game.
Yeah, because it's still so new and fresh that it would just kind of really suck.
Whereas when they showed segments of like Spider-Man for Yuri Lowenthal's nomination, you can show any segment of that. You can go, oh, they're right, he's Spider-Man. That's how Spider-Man talks and acts.
Yeah.
But you can't take a character that is more of a real human being sort of in that time period and show like his emotional side without showing scenes that require that emotion. Whereas with a superhero, you're like, oh yeah, he's fighting a bad guy. Of course, yeah, it's a superhero.
Yeah. Oh, he's making jokes and all that. Yes, this is
cracking
Spider-Man.
wise. It's Spider-Man. Yeah, exactly. I also wanted to mention before I forget, this also, the Game Awards of 2018 was the first time in all of history of any gaming event ever that the presidents of Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo all walked out on stage at the same time and was like, welcome to the Game Awards. It's about community, not competition. And they were all standing there. It was so weird to see like the camera like zoom in on Reggie and right next to him is Phil Spencer and they're both smiling. I was like...
As soon as they walked up on stage, I'm like, fight.
Well, I said to Holly when we were watching the ceremony, that would have been the best time to unveil like... Smash Brothers is the best crossover ever. So to show that and to show community, we are putting one Microsoft character and one Sony character in Smash Brothers and then have like the three of them play around and duke it out like right there. That would have been so cool. That would have been
pretty cool.
Or just have Reggie straight up beat the shit out of everyone.
I'm not going to lie.
I
think Reggie would win.
It's a good thing he's the nicest of the three. Because I think that's what's keeping a fight from breaking out. He just doesn't want to, and everyone else is afraid.
He looks like he's pretty beefed up.
Yeah. Like I'd be afraid to fight Reggie.
He's heavy set, but I think he was... I feel like he'd probably been in a few fights in his time.
Yeah, he looks like he could toss some hay bales around.
But yeah, it was pretty wild to see that, to see the three of them on stage together. And it actually made me wonder, I wonder how often that happens behind closed doors. Like at E3, they all just like go in the same break room. Hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
What other awards were there? I can't remember what won Best Indie Game of the Year.
I think it was Celeste.
Yeah.
Celeste, yeah. That was also a big thing for indie games that Celeste was nominated for Game of the Year. That's the first time.
Yeah, that was cool.
Has been the category, yeah.
Fortnite won Best Multiplayer Game, of course.
Like people on Twitter were pointing it out. Every single like best content creator was someone whose primary output was Fortnite.
That's because like half of everyone does Fortnite now.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's unfortunate. I'm not really judging people who like it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
So it's just, especially when you're someone who has little to no interest in it, when it's as prominent as it is, it starts to become annoying.
Yeah. At that point, with how prominent it is, of course it was going to win something.
Well, yes. Of course.
Yeah, I actually thought it was going to win the multiplayer award, but it didn't. Also, didn't surprise me that Overwatch won it.
No, Fortnite won multiplayer.
Yeah.
Was it Well, then what was the one?
Esports.
Oh, esports, right, yeah.
It
was in esports as well, and I was surprised.
Yeah, they were nominated for esports, but it was Overwatch that won for esports.
Yeah.
So.
Oh. I would have thought... I don't know, maybe I'm just not familiar enough with Fortnite. Fortnite seems like the kind of thing that hardcore esports people would hate. Yeah. Just because, like, they're so, like, into...
Well, they have, they're, like, a whole
it's gotta be
Overwatch
completely competitively
now,
balanced.
Right? So.
Yeah. Even though, like, so many real sports aren't like that at all.
No.
I remember in the break room at work once, someone was commenting about esports, and someone else chimed in and was like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I mean, I'm not shitting all over video games, but, like, why would you just sit there and watch someone play a video game? And I go, I'm not shitting all over hockey, but why would you sit there and watch the Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
And they looked at me and went, all right. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, same shit.
I can't think of any other topic about the Game Awards specifically I wanted to mention.
The one that like stuck out to me, like the only award I have an actual real opinion on, was Best Art Direction.
Oh, yeah.
So I have it written down, the name of the winner.
Because I know who you wanted to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Return of the Obra Dinn that one. And, like, it's got a pretty cool visual style. I really would have gone for Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
Like, I just love the way that game looks. Like,
It's such a awesome blend of, like, 3D but 2D sprites.
yeah.
Like, it has a 3D depth of field, but it looks 2D. Mm-hmm. Like, it sort of looks like what, like, console software developers in the 90s, if you told them, what do you think consoles would be like in 2020? That they'd picture that, because that's all they would understand.
Well, like, it's got this cool, like, sort of diorama pop-up book thing going on with that. Yeah. And I just love, like, everything about the atmosphere in that game.
There were a couple games showed off, too, that looked really interesting.
Yeah, I had world premieres that showed up. So.
Yeah, there's that Ancestors.
Yeah, Ancestors looked interesting.
I'm really salty that's not coming to the Switch. Yeah. Like, I get it, but still.
It might at some point.
It was the Pathless that I thought looked really
good that looks cool.
It was the creator of Abzu.
Yeah, that's one I've been wanting to play.
That one looked really neat, because I played Abzu and Journey. I don't know if they're the same company.
I think, like, it's one of those things where, like, some of the team members worked on both.
I mean, they remind me of each other, I guess.
They're very similar compare games.
Them. But yeah, that game kind of reminded me of both of those games, and it looked really cool, so I'm excited to give that a try.
Yeah, you've got a cool little eagle friend.
Yeah, I know, and it's so cute! Did you find it yet?
Well, one of them survived by. It's actually published by Digital Extremes, who made Warframe. Yeah. It's like kind of an MMO, just like Warframe is, and it's free to play as well. But it's almost it's more cartoonish drawn, but it's sort of what you'd expect, like 16-bit sprites. In terms of like graphics and gameplay, that's what it kind of looks like.
Okay.
And it's just that you're trying to save the world from monsters. It looks like, but every time you die, when you respawn, you are like a descendant. Like, the time periods move forward, and you are a descendant of that warrior that died. And yeah, the trailer for it was really funny.
Yeah, it was
the
pretty cute.
announcer for it like kept building up the game, but he'd acknowledge it when the player in the trailer did something stupid. So he'd be like, "You have to, strive to be great." Or die, like he just did. You can do that too. Like, it was just well written to be like, oh, that's a funny trailer.
Yeah.
It looked really cool. There was a game, Atlas, from the people who made Ark, that was shown off, and it's like this.
I think it's almost kind of like an expansion to Ark.
No, it's a new game.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I was reading about it the other day.
Oh, okay.
It's a new game, and it's the world map supposedly is 1,200 times, like mathematically, 1,200 times bigger than the biggest world map that's in Ark.
Oh my god!
And it's basically an entire planet with up to 40,000 concurrent players at the same time per server. And it's this open world sort of RPG kind of combat game where you will build societies and build villages, build your own like in-player base economy and blah blah blah.
Right.
But there's so many different professions that you could just build a ship, sail the seas, be a pirate, and you could sail the seas and never see land again. But meanwhile, your best friend who plays in the same server could be off in the middle of nowhere as a miner, and it's just this like living world where you just do whatever. But you can come across fantasy monsters and like kill them and loot them and whatever. Like, they show it at first, it just looked like, oh, it's like a fantasy life simulator or whatever, and then all of a sudden a dragon was there and like a Cerberus, and I was like, oh, there's the Ark influence right there. But it looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, it did look really neat.
Apparently the beta is coming next year, I guess.
Yeah.
For that game, that'll be an interesting one to keep your eyes on.
Yeah.
Out of all of the possible characters that could get announced for Smash Brothers DLC, I did not expect Persona.
No.
I will give Nintendo full props there.
Like, what?
Like, that wasn't even one of the things where it's so like, oh no, he's not going to be in it. Like, the possibilities just never entered my mind.
Yeah. I had the same moment at, I think it was E3, when they announced Warframe for the Switch. It's not that I ever thought it couldn't happen. It just never occurred to me that it would.
Yeah.
And yeah, it surprises me too, because Persona has a history of being on Nintendo handhelds.
Yeah.
And Persona 5 is like this gigantic, critically acclaimed, amazing RPG that's exclusive to Sony.
Yeah, it was on the other JRPG machine.
Yeah. So why now all of a sudden in a Nintendo title is the protagonist from the game that wasn't on a Nintendo system there? And you could ask the exact same question about Cloud Strife, however.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
he's also from like a renowned RPG franchise that up until that specific game was exclusive to Nintendo platforms. So it's so weird. I'm thinking that there might be plans of... Is it Atlas that makes Persona? I can't remember who it is.
So. I just sort of assume every like semi-niche JRPG is Atlas.
I'm assuming that there's probably long-term plans. I'm guessing Persona 5 will pop up on the Switch.
Probably.
And
that'd be nice.
I'm assuming Final Fantasy VII's remake in some form might, because of Cloud Strife being on Smash Brothers.
Yeah, the way I can see them doing it is like in a Nintendo Direct, they like show a reveal trailer for Persona 5, and then and by the way, after the presentation, now you can download Mr. Persona 5 for Smash. I don't remember the guy's name.
I knew it, and it's not in my head right now. I'm really underprepared for this podcast. But yeah, when the trailer first started playing, I actually thought it was going to be Persona 5 on the Switch.
Mm.
And then when it was like, we've been invited, and he showed the card and it had the Smash logo, I was like, really? Like, really?
Why? Yeah, I was like, why?
They've really been
what's going
like
on?
knocking it out of the park with character reveals. Just like unexpected ones and
Yeah.
doing it in interesting ways.
Yeah. My favorite one is the Castlevania Simon one. Where Luigi gets killed. That's not why, but like
Luigi.
that whole little thing. I was like, okay, maybe it's a boss from Luigi's Mansion or something that's gonna be in Smash. And then he starts fighting like these like realistic looking demons and shit, and I'm like, what franchise is this? And my brain went through every possibility it could think of, and I actually did think, is this Castlevania? No, it wouldn't be Castlevania. Konami's fucking shithead now. And then the chain came in and the whip, and I was like, oh, it's Castlevania.
Or like the double fake out they did with King K. Rool.
Yeah. That was pretty odd, where King DDD's like, oh, and then K. Rool just kills him.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I've been playing K. Rool in the new Smash Brothers, and I fucking love him.
Oh, cool.
He's a heavyweight, but he's faster than most heavyweights. So, like, think of, like, Bowser Damage, but just a lot faster.
Jesus.
And it's just a lot of fun. His moveset is kind of weird, but I see why. Because Sakurai, I think, was trying to blend all of his appearances in Donkey Kong Country into the one character.
Right.
So he looks like he did in 1, which is kind of his iconic look. But, like, your over special, I think, is the button combo for that. Like, your over and B is he pulls out, like, a blunderbuss and has a pirate hat, because that's how he looked in the second game.
Yeah.
And he shoots it, but if you hold the button down, he's gonna like suck the ball back in and then send it out for more damage. But if another enemy is nearby, he'll suck them into the gun and he'll try to shoot them off screen.
Oh,
and I think it's just really fun to play as him.
Yeah, I like when they do that. Just sort of like combine every appearance of a character like that. Mm-hmm. So like how they do Mega Man's Final Smash.
Yeah,
like it's just nice to see.
But it still bothers me they don't reap the benefits of having, like, you know how you can pick different colors of a character.
Yeah,
and they started to do like, oh look, it's Link in Breath of the Wild, and if you pick the other color, it's Link in the classic tunic and whatever.
Yeah,
it's always bothered me that it's like Samus is the one where she has the color schemes of other armors she's worn canonly in the series. Yeah. So why don't you just make the armors be what she looks like when you pick that color? Because you clearly understand that armor exists, because that's what this color scheme is based off of. It'd be so cool if you could just be Samus and control Samus, but have her wear like the fusion suit or something.
Hear that, Sakurai? You fucked up.
No.
I'm sorry. I immediately felt bad. Like, he's never going to hear this, but just on the off chance. I'm sorry.
Just on the off chance.
I wonder, people were talking about it on Twitter the other day. I wonder how well he slept the night of the Game Awards.
Oh my God.
Because it's not only the Game Awards, but the game came out the next day.
Yeah.
He's probably like
it
sweating.
actually came out later that night, didn't it?
It depends on where you are in the world.
I think some places did even like a 10 o'clock release.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of places like EB Games, when I used to buy games from them, they'd do it. They can, because it's technically after they officially close for the day, the sale counts financially as the next day's sale. Right. So they can legally skirt a little over the line and be like, hey, you can buy it Thursday, even though it comes out Friday.
Yeah. Right.
Because on paper, it was sold on Friday. Yeah, so Smash Brothers, pick that up if you haven't. It's really good. Yeah, I don't really know what else to talk about the Game Awards specifically. One of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast is I wanted to discuss our own personal games of the year. Who wants to start?
It's like being in school all over again.
I guess I can.
Wow.
Thank God. The Keener.
Like how far can I put my head down?
The Keener stepped up.
That was always a rush in class. So I was like, somebody answer, and it's just silent.
Yeah.
And then the one kid who's always getting 90s. I know the answer. Oh, thank God.
So for me, my personal game of the year is The Messenger. It delivered entirely on all of the hype I had for it. It is a perfect love letter to classic Metroidvania games like Metroid, and Ninja Gaiden is its other big influence.
Yeah.
And it's always throwing a new way to play at you, which is so fun. The first 1/3 of the game, you're in like 8-bit graphics, and it's just Ninja Gaiden. Then the second sort of third of the game, it's 16-bit graphics, and the difficulty majorly ramps up. But then after you complete that, and it feels like you beat the final boss, it goes back in on itself because time travel becomes a factor. And then you can go back and explore every area you've been to previously, as well as new areas, by bouncing back and forth in time to 16-bit graphics and 8-bit graphics. And at that point, it becomes like a Metroid game where you're exploring, finding items you need to progress, fighting bosses like you have been. But before, it had like a coherent move left to right, now boss. Now it's any direction and all these obstacles. And it's by the time you start to be like, oh, okay, I'm kind of bored of the linear pathway here. Boom, now it's this open game. And it keeps changing itself as I go. And it's just so much fun. The writing in that game is just top tier. Like, I wasn't expecting to fall in love with characters in this game, but that shopkeeper, god damn,
he's really good.
He is my spirit animal. I love him so much. Just play The Messenger. It is a fantastic indie game. I don't even know how much it costs, but if it's less than like $40, it's a steal. Go buy that game. And when I seen it nominated for more than one award for the Game Awards, I was so excited. And when it won Best Indie Debut, I was super happy for it. I actually want to have clarification on what indie debut means.
I explained it to you.
Yeah, but I'm curious if it's like it made the most money, or if it was a new studio's first game.
That's what I'm pretty sure that's what it means, because that's what the word debut means.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that studio would probably release their first game, and The Messenger was that first game.
Yeah.
And then, therefore, that was their debut. So
that makes sense. It was weird to me that it, like, right after having Best Indie Debut, they had Best Indie Game. I couldn't, in my head, I was like, but what's really the difference?
It's like how at the Grammys they have, like, Best New Artist, and then they have, I think they have Best Artist or whatever. They have, like, Record of the Year, whatever. That's the important one, because that's the one that Arcade Fire won.
But yeah, The Messenger, it just hits every one of my notes out the park. And I forgot how much I like side-scrolling action games. And playing The Messenger just sort of, I don't know, it made me want to go play. It made me not want to stop playing The Messenger, but it made me want to go back and play Super Metroid and play Ninja Gaiden and whatever else. It's the perfect blend of a totally new experience, but being a really heartfelt love letter to the games of yesterday that invented that formula.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the problem with a lot of like modern side scrollers, is like they sort of do it as like, oh, this is a nod to, you know, older games that you loved, and it's like, it's not really anything else.
Yeah.
I keep seeing... It doesn't stand alone.
Yeah.
Before the Switch came out and my main access to indie games was Steam, I kept seeing games coming up in like my recommendations from Steam that was like, oh, it's an indie game, it's this cool side scroller and it got good reviews and blah, blah, blah. And then I'd watch gameplay footage and I'd go, it's Sonic. It's all it is. It's like, oh, it's got like a humanoid character rather than like a anthropomorphic
it's just wrapped
animal.
In a different package.
But it's like, look at this character. If you want to go faster, you can do this move. And it's the guy like gets into an energy ball and moves fast. And it's like, it's Sonic. It's a spin dash.
This already.
I have this on my Genesis. I don't need to buy it for $10 on Steam.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the few indie games that always just knock it out of the park as a love letter and a new experience. And The Messenger is that.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of Ninja Gaiden or the old 2D Metroid games or whatever, get this game. It's a lot of fun. It's my personal game of the year for 2018.
Cool.
Next.
Well, do you have any ideas, Rob?
Yeah. I'll go next. I mean, I wanted to sort of start with like an honorable mention. Because, like, I was talking to Tom about this on the way over. I was sort of wrestling on, like, how I was going to do this. Because I'm a very firm believer that we should be very, very pedantic about these year-end lists. And do them at the end of the year.
What?
And most places will do it at, like, the end of November or the beginning of December. Yeah. Which means that when a game releases on December 7th, 2017...
One year before Smash.
Yeah, it gets sort of missed. And so, you know, about 4Kids, the day it released, December 7th, 2017. I know because it actually like came up in my Twitter feed. It was like the day was like, oh, it's been 1 year since we launched on Switch.
I actually saw your response to that.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I mean, like, it just got completely overlooked. And I feel like it still is. Like, it's even gotten releases this year on Steam, Xbox, and PS4. And there's just, like, this cool little community that's sprung up around it without it getting a whole lot of, like, wider attention. But, like, it just, like, nails everything I didn't even know I wanted from that game.
How would you describe that gameplay? Like, I know how I would, kind of.
Yeah.
It's basically a fighting game.
Kinda in like the multiplayer, it's kind of a fighting game.
Yeah, okay. I never played the single player.
I describe it like the best way I've seen it described is like a Tony Hawk rhythm game.
Okay, yeah,
because you have to stay on rhythm, but you are choosing what moves do you want to do here, when do you do your combos, and there's like different little bits of flavor you can add in there. Like you can freeze, you can hop during freezes, like. There's just, like, so much going on, but it's, like, I don't know, it's surprisingly easy to pick up.
Mm-hmm. Like, I remember we played it at New Year's last year with everybody.
Yeah.
And Nathan, who's bizarrely talented at most fighting games, he just went right in there. Like, it took him, like, 2 matches, and he was beating all of us.
Almost all of us.
Well, you and him were going pretty even for a while, too.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's just, like, such a great game to sit down with for just, like, a couple minutes and just sort of, like, chill out. So, yeah, that's sort of, like, my honorable mention for this year, just because it got overlooked. But
they would technically count as a game that was released this year if it was released... last year, but after the awards.
It wasn't released in calendar year.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean, because it was released after the last Game Awards happened, right? So, does that mean any games between that period just doesn't get a chance?
Pretty much.
And that's my point.
Awful. Oh my god, it's awful.
But yeah,
Never release your games out between December and January, guys. Come on.
But my actual game of the year, because it was released in 2018, is WarioWare Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like this, I mean, I think there's been at least 2 episodes of the podcast where I mentioned how much I wanted a new WarioWare game. I mean, I did say on the Switch, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something I've been wanting for years. I kind of thought maybe the series was pretty much dead, because it seemed like they'd, done Game & Wario instead, and it didn't do too well. Like, people didn't really like it. So I just sort of thought, like, yeah, that's probably the end, and we'll just have to settle with what we've got. And then, like, just out of nowhere in the one direct, very first trailer, like, as soon as, like, they have the little sort of intro cards, and then it's like, my vaunted microgame collection comes to the 3DS, and it's like a silhouette of a nose with a mustache. And I just like immediately flipped shit. But yeah, I know for all we were talking about, like, all these indie games just recycling what worked before, like, that game is mostly old micro games, but they just like combine them in like such a great way, especially the ultra segments of all the challenge modes where it's like you have to keep switching between like button presses or twisting or touchscreen controls or blowing, which is not my favorite. But.
What?
Yeah, there's is it the microphone that detects it?
Oh my god,
so
really?
So you have to do stuff like, blow up a balloon or
that's
blow
funny.
a dandelion.
Oh jeez, I don't like microphones on games.
Yeah, I've never been very good at those.
My first awful experience with that was Nintendogs. And you're like yelling, "Sit! Just sit!"
And
the dog's just looking at you like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" It's
Your
just
actual dogs are, what's going on? But yeah, I think what really impressed me about what they did with WarioWare Gold is like they took all of this stuff that worked before and that I loved. Like they had the micro games I loved, including like some of the really great boss stages that I remember from the old games. They kept the whole like reward system where you just like keep getting all these little trinkets and mini games and all this. And then like the challenge modes I think are probably my favorite part of the game. There's, I want to say like 7 or 8 that they threw in there. Like, there's the stuff that was in all the old games, like all the games mixed up together, all the boss stages. There's one where you only have 1 life and you have to see how far you can go. But then there's stuff like, there's one, you're in a car with Dribble and Spitz, who are 2 of the characters. They're taxi drivers.
Dribble and Spitz?
Yeah. They're a bulldog Dribble and his little cat friend Spitz.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so the way it works is like you're doing these micro games, and I can't remember exactly like the mechanics of it, but basically you have the choice to either lean forward with your 3DS and speed the games up but get a better score, or lean back and make them easier but slow everything down.
Huh.
There's one I think they actually took it from Game & Wario, where, you have to play all these micro games, but it's like almost a Five Nights at Freddy's kind of thing. Like you're this character 9-Volt. He's like a little kid and he loves Nintendo games.
In a Nintendo game.
Yeah. Which actually makes for some of the best jokes in WarioWare. But anyway, like he's in bed after his bedtime playing these games, and like you have to press L and R
there's a Smash
together.
Brothers map based on that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that he like hides under the covers when his mom looks in the room.
It's a real fear, man. It's a real fear.
I remember doing that.
Yeah. And like there's missions you can do where you get extra coins to work the slot machine that gives you these rewards. Like everything about that game is just like they really couldn't have nailed it more.
Well, that's pretty cool. I remember wanting to play it, but I was just sort of butthurt that it wasn't on the Switch.
Butthurt.
Yeah, butthurt. My ass was in pain.
You know what? That is the one thing that would have been better if it was on the Switch, because one of the challenge modes is multiplayer, for which you need another 3DS and another copy of WarioWare. Like, you just released a console that you're promoting almost exclusively with, like, look how easy multiplayer it is. It comes with 2 controllers.
Yeah, right.
And you didn't put this on the Switch.
Yeah, it was kind of silly.
It did feel like, especially in the back half of 2017 and mostly throughout 2018, that Nintendo's kind of phasing out the 3DS.
Yeah.
They want to put all of their development resources towards the Switch.
Yeah, I kind of feel like pretty much everyone's phasing out the 3DS. Like, if you go to EB Games, they just basically do not carry new 3DS games anymore.
Yeah.
They'll have the stuff that released in like the last week.
Yeah.
And that's it. The rest of it, you're getting used.
Well, your turn.
No! Just kidding. I'm kidding. Well, I mean, my game of the year obviously is Red Dead Redemption 2. I took a bit to think about that because, like, I was just trying to think of, like, some of the games that may have come out earlier this year that I just kind of forgot about. Like, for example, like, before I knew the nominees, I totally forgot that Monster Hunter World came out this year. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that game. But for me, the reason Red Dead is, like, kind of, like, my game of the year is because it was such a long anticipation for me for that game.
Yeah.
After playing the previous Red Dead Redemption, like, me and my sisters, we really liked that game. Like, we played it, like, we squeezed every bit of juice out of that game that we could because, like, it was fun to play. And not only was it fun to play, it was just fun to fuck around in, right? Like, that's my favorite thing about open world games is that I like making my own game out of a game, right? So sometimes I just like doing my own shit. And Red Dead Redemption was really fun for that because not only was, like, you know, the story great, like, the characters were great, like, the actors were great, like, everything about it, visuals, blah, blah, blah. The comic entertainment that came from that game is ridiculous. Like, just crashing your horse into a tree, like, it's just, it busts your gut laughing. Like, just everything about it is hilarious. I remember running into a stagecoach, head on with my horse. I flew off of my horse and landed right in the laps of the dudes that were driving the coach. And they're like, get out of here! And it was so funny. And then I remember chasing this kid because he had stolen my money. And I remember chasing him and I was like bumping into shit. I was like, you know, running into barrels of stuff and like, you know, almost toppling over. And then I run into this market and I slip on some fruit that fell on the ground. And I was like, holy fucking shit. And like I laughed so much playing that game, and like, you know, even if you're just like running a simple errand, right, your horse just doesn't jump soon enough or whatever, and it's just the funniest thing ever. Like, and like, I think like eventually I wanted to make like, I recorded all of like, you know, the epic fails that I did, and I'm just gonna make a montage video of like all the dumb shit that I did. But yeah, like that, beyond that, like, I knew I was waiting for this game for so long, and then when Rockstar was saying, like, well, we're going to hold on to it, we're not going to quite release it yet, blah, 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 like, I was kind of, like, a little hurt whenever I got that news, but I'm like, you know what? They're taking their time, they're, you know, dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's, right? Like, you want to make sure that this game is, like, 100% pristine, polished, and ready to go when we get to play it, right? So,
which is nice to see.
Yeah, and that I appreciated because, you know, like, they really did their job. Like, they did everything they could to make that game the best experience they could possibly make it. My only complaint with it right now is they did, it wasn't released when the game first came out, was their online, like, public server, I guess, or whatever. So basically you create your own character and basically play in the world, and like you can like make your own gangs or whatever, like with other players and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And personally I have not played that yet, but my sister, because she's a huge freaking Red Dead fan, she had given it a whirl, and I'm hoping that it's just in its beta stage or something or whatever, because they took a lot of elements that you could do in the game away from this online experience, which I think is kind of silly. Because, like, one of the main things that I love doing in Red Dead, and you could do it in the first Red Dead, and you did it in this one, is that you could actually find wild horses and catch them and ride them and tame them and stuff like that, right?
Right.
But for some reason you can't do that in online. And it's like, there's wild horses everywhere, but you can't catch them. It's just kind of like waving a lollipop in front of a kid and be like, you can't have that. And it's like... It's like,
tell me how you really feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on. I like catching ponies. Like, I was on a horse riding up a current in a river just to catch this other horse. It took me 2 hours just to catch this horse. Like, I like to catch the ponies. I want to catch the ponies. And then, I don't remember what else she said that they kind of removed. But I hope that they kind of refine that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're taking away some of the mechanics that you've taught us how to do playing the main story of the game and then just kind of taking it away from us, it feels kind of weird and doesn't feel fun to play. Like my sister specifically said, like, right now it's all fine and dandy if you just want to play around or whatever, and she's just like, but honestly at this point I might as well just play around with Arthur, because at this point you're already attached to the character and you can do more shit with Arthur.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, that's kind of my only complaint, is that they released this online experience and that they just kind of haven't really given it their best shot, I don't think. Yeah. Anyway, but...
That's such a weird way to do it, too.
Right? Like, why would you take away all these mechanics, right?
And, like, we're doing this massive open-world MMO kind of thing, so we're actually going to limit you more.
Yeah, right?
What?
Like, I think it's super cool that you can, like, create your own character, and, like, but the only way, like... This is a big thing for me, again, with the horses. The only way you can get new horses is you have to buy them, and it's just like, that's no fun, right? Like, you want to catch the ponies, right? So, but that's my only really big thing. But yeah, no, I loved the characters. I liked how you got to experience, like, some of the characters from the previous game as well, too. Because you, obviously, in the first Red Dead, you played as John Marston.
Yeah.
And, in the second game, the whole story is that you're part of the gang that John Marston was in previous to the first Red Dead.
The sequel's a prequel.
Yeah, the sequel's technically a prequel. But you play as a different character, but John is still there. Like, you can still do missions with John. Like, you can talk and engage with any of your gang members that are in camp or whatever.
Okay.
Which I thought was really neat to kind of see how, in the first Red Dead, you know, John, the whole story is that he's trying to, the government is trying to get John to catch all the guys from his previous gang, right? Because now they're, like, a really big problem.
Right.
And in exchange for his freedom, they say, you go catch these guys, right? And so you meet all of these gang members that you didn't know too much about, other than, like, the stories or whatever John would tell you.
Right.
But then now you're experiencing what these people were like before they became really big bad guys, right? So it was kind of interesting to see those characters in a different perspective, because when you're in the gang, it's kind of like a family perspective, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at this dude and you're like, I know you're, like, a super big bad guy, and then sometimes you kind of almost, like, get attached to these characters, even though you know that, like, I gotta kill you. I gotta kill you later. Like, come on. But then you see how they ended up, you know, how their ideas and visions changed to make them turn into those kind of people, right? It's really interesting experience, but I mean, it was an awesome game. I waited a really long time for it, and they really delivered on everything that we wanted from it. So that is my game of the year, because it was great and I liked it.
Some of the only complaints I have with it are its shooting mechanics, but Rockstar created their own way to do a shooter, that it's sort of player friendly to anybody who picks it up.
Okay.
If you're used to how the industry at large does shooter controls, it fucks with you for a while. You get used to it. It, like, auto aims, but not all the time.
Oh,
so, like, that makes it sound terrible.
It auto aims on anything that's, like, you're in, like, a certain frame, right? Like, if it has to be pretty close to where your center of view is, right? Like, if you're facing this way and your target's over here, it's likely not going to auto aim all the way over there, right? It has to be pretty close to your center of sight.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it doesn't, like, hold your hand too much. It just kind of points you in the right direction.
But it does the auto aim when you do, like, L2 or whatever to aim down sights.
Yeah.
So you get your general position, you hit it, it auto aims usually to the guy you were already trying to shoot anyway. You shoot him. It's a little bit realistic that most times you shoot him once and they're down. So you shoot him and he's down. But my instinct is to keep aiming down sights and just adjust my aim to shoot the next guy.
Right.
When you do that, the auto aim goes like, it doesn't know what the fuck you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So the easier way to do it is just let go of the trigger so that your Arthur puts his gun back down, and then you change your body's position and then auto aim again.
Oh.
And after a little while, you get super used to that and it just becomes an instinct.
Yeah.
But in the first segment of the game, when you're in, like, a shootout, and it's in, like, the first 20 minutes of gameplay, when you're someone like me that's played a lot of third-person shooters, and you have a certain way you do it, It completely fucks with you until you get used to the game. That's my only real complaint with that game.
That's also what I like about Red Dead is that because like growing up, I never was a huge fan of shooters. Like it wasn't a game that I really would ever sought out. Like I only ever played it with like other people who own them. But the nice thing I like about Red Dead is it's a nice balance between like a shooter and like I don't know, because
it's almost like an open world RPG.
Yeah. That's kind of what it feels like because like I don't mind, shooting bad guys. Like I actually think it's kind of fun, but when that's like the whole of the game, I get kind of disinterested. And because I'm not that good at it, right? So sometimes it's like if I keep doing that, it's like, okay, I'm totally done now. But it gives you a nice flavor balance of shooting. And even if you wanted to, you could just run up to the dudes and deck them in the face if you really wanted to. It's a stupid idea, but you could if you wanted to. I fought off a wolf with a knife. A whole pack of wolves with a knife because they saw me way before I knew I could shoot them all. So I was like, fuck it, it's do or die. Pulled out my knife and I just sliced all of them. It's crazy. But yeah, no, it just gives you a lot of different opportunities of like how you want to do some stuff. Sometimes it will limit you. It's like you kind of have to do it this way. Like if you're in certain like quests or missions, right? Sometimes it can be kind of particular that it's like we want you to do it this way, so make sure you do it that way. Otherwise, you'll fail the mission, kind of thing. And that can kind of bug me a little bit. But yeah, what can you do, right? Like there's only so much you can do. So, but other than that, it was a fantastic game. And I like the ability that you can actually like change your character's like appearance slightly so that you can almost personalize Arthur. You couldn't really do that with John in the first one. Right. But like that way, like, you're given a set character, right? You don't get to make your own character, but you can kind of make him your own, right? For your own experience, which I thought was really cool. So. Okay. Yeah.
That was something I liked about Breath of the Wild too.
Yes.
Yeah. No matter what podcast I'm in, I have to bring up that.
Well, it seems like we all have our own game that we always go back to. Yeah. Because he told me that when he was telling me about the podcast, he's like, you can't mention Okami. It wasn't released this year. It only came out on the Switch.
I said it could be an honorable mention.
I know.
It just couldn't be your Game of the Year pick.
No, I know. But it's fine. Whatever. I talk about that game every time we do a podcast, so I figured that this one might just be the one.
Well, then now we're par for the course.
Oh, shit.
We've got like 10 minutes left before our usual end time. So we've got 10 whole minutes where I could talk about how much I hate Mass Effect Andromeda, and then we're par for the course.
We'll need more than 10 minutes
for that one.
Yeah, put some Baroque in there. You still haven't played Mario 3?
I still haven't played Mario 3. I still haven't played a Mario game. I need to be shot. Don't nod your head.
Honestly, I don't think you're missing much.
I still want to play Mario Odyssey, though, because we have it. I just haven't put it in the Switch and play it. So, because like I was super excited for that game, even though I'd never played a Mario game, but I was excited to play it. I just haven't played it.
If you've never played 3D Mario Odyssey, is a good place to start. Yeah. It holds your hand, but not too much. It's a good entry into how those games usually behave.
I just like the big dinosaur.
You just want to wreck shit as a T-Rex. The T-Rex with a hat and mustache.
Yeah, pretty cool. But all things considered, I mean, Smash is a total smash right now, so I'm just going to put that in there.
So far, that game has delivered on the hype for me.
Yeah. I am sad, however, because, like, I like super cheesy, but I usually play Link as like my main Smash player. Like I like to alternate between characters, but Link has always just been my favorite. Yeah. But because now they've introduced like Breath of the Wild Link has slightly changed of how he plays. Like no claw shot anymore, which makes me sad. And there was another thing that changed.
You have to detonate the bombs.
Yeah, you remote detonate the bombs like you did in Breath of the Wild, right? Yeah. So you pop out the bomb, you throw it. The bomb can roll around for however fucking long
and other
you want
people can pick it up and throw it back at you.
Yeah. Yeah, but they can't like detonate it.
They can't detonate it, but if you were about to detonate it and they grab it and throw it back, you're gonna blow yourself up.
You can blow it. Yeah, you can blow yourself up too. But the nice thing about that is young Link still has like the claw shot and all that kind of stuff. So if I ever feel like I miss that, like that's another go-to character.
I think that might have been the way they justified bringing him back too.
Yeah,
he can be the alternative for people who want the classic way of playing Link in Smash.
Yeah, but other than that, it's still really fun. So. And I have Richter now, but I don't like playing him, so. He's too slow!
I haven't gotten the chance. I haven't unlocked him yet. But I'm really excited.
I haven't played him very much, so maybe I just need to learn, but like he's too slow. Like I got my ass kicked by Zelda.
See, that's the problem I have with Roy.
Yeah, he's slow Marth, but the alternative is he does way more damage.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I never looked at the stats or anything.
That's usually how it goes. The heavyweights are slower but more damage.
Yeah.
But I like being fast because I need to move. I don't like getting hit.
So, I guess to close this out, my question to you guys would be, are there any games, announced or otherwise, I guess it can be a speculative game or one that's already been announced, like I just said, for 2019 that you're really excited for, now that we're almost in the new year?
Daemon X Machina looks really cool.
It looks really cool.
What's this one?
That's that mech fighting game on the Switch that they showed at E3.
It's like Mech Monster Hunter, basically.
Where you make your own like anime character protagonist.
Yeah.
A husbando, if you will.
Husbando.
I'm assuming, or a waifu. I don't know.
Probably.
I'd be shocked if they didn't have a gender option.
Yeah.
Husbando.
Yeah, I
only learned that word recently. I knew about the waifu, but the husbando one just makes me giggle.
I just have fun saying
it. Makes me giggle.
Husbando. I want someone with like a Spanish accent. Husbando.
I can get a guy. I don't know of any games that I know that are coming out though on 2019. So I know of games that are coming out. Just I don't know what they're gonna be.
Is there anything like it could be anything you can think of, like Okami 2?
Well, you know how I feel about that. Make it happen! Come on!
One game I am curious about, we talked about it in our Halloween podcast, was Resident Evil 2. It was a game that really scared you. There's a remake of that game coming.
I'm just kidding. I'm probably going to play it.
I'm curious about it.
I'm probably going to give myself nightmares, but I'll play it.
I'd be interested to see what happens if you're playing it.
Well, it's like when I played Slender Man for the first time. I was like huddled in a blanket and I was like this. The controller is close to me and I was like, ah! Ah!
I just like picturing the protagonist. The game's like, go down this hallway. And he's like, no. I'm going to go left.
I'd rather not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to leave this city, go home.
If I have to turn a corner, I like hyperventilate before I do it. Like, do I really want to do this?
See, that's why whenever we play horror games on the channel, Holly's got to be involved.
Oh my god. I remember playing a VR game. It wasn't even that scary, but there was these little shadow creatures that would pop out or whatever, and you actually had to slice monsters that would come at you. Mm-hmm. And I remember working myself up to go around this corner, and it's a VR experience too, so it was you're there, right? It's not like I can close my eyes and walk forward, right? But I remember hyperventilating, working myself up just to go around a corner, because I was like, I don't know what's there. Those little creepy things are hiding around the corner. And I remember every time I met a monster, I would just flail. I'd be like, ah! Trying to slice it and kill it. Oh my god, it was terrifying. It was awful. Horror's not my genre.
For me, Metroid. Either Metroid Prime 4 or a Prime Trilogy HD, whatever. Just fucking give me Metroid Prime on Switch.
Well, I know how I feel.
It needs to happen. It makes too much sense. I'm sure there is a Metroid Prime Trilogy coming. And if it isn't, that means 4 is closer than we think. Because if
there's just been too much smoke.
Yeah, if 4 is a 2020 game, I'm sure 2019 is a Prime Trilogy HD. Mm-hmm. If there isn't one, then I'm sure 4 is a 2019 game. But I want them to talk about it.
Yeah.
What if the Prime Trilogy that comes out on Switch is Hunter's Pinball Federation Force?
What?
Well, I've heard Hunter's is fine.
Hunter's is pretty good.
I have no idea
it's a little awkward on the 3DS. Basically, the best way I've found is, because I haven't been able to find the actual official thumb stylus that Nintendo made, you get a plastic twist tie. You sort of twist it around your thumb, make a little loop, right at the tip, and then you use that, and that works all right.
What?
It's a... Metroid Prime's first-person shooter, kind of.
Yeah.
It's not a shooter, really, but... No. they made Metroid Prime Hunters on the original DS, and because the 3DS is backwards compatible, you can play it on that. Mm-hmm. But the actual touch screen is your first-person perspective and how you move your gun with your thumb on the touch.
Depending on how you do it. That's if you do like the good control scheme. There's another one where the way you control your camera is the face buttons.
Okay.
That's dumb.
Yeah, it does not work very well. Because then that means they have to move the jump button to the touch screen. I know.
Okay.
See, Metroid Prime Hunters is actually one of the DS's games that are on the Wii U's eShop. Now I'm curious how they did that for the touchpad on the Wii U.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe they just changed it to like the trilogy controls they used on the Wii.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I really like the way they did those controls.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Metroid, I was really sure we were going to see something at the Game Awards.
Yeah, I really thought so.
But I'm sure either way, Metroid Prime 4 is in development. I will have Metroid Prime one day on the Switch.
Yeah.
It just feels like the time is right, and it makes sense for Nintendo to do that.
Yeah.
Because they can drum up hype for 4 that way. And,
yeah.
And yeah, it makes so much sense to me. I was surprised when it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And a little disappointed, but something's coming.
You'll live.
Get over it.
I know, I'm so supportive. Well, hey. I've been waiting for a second of my favorite game for a long time. A second. Okay? I'm being patient.
That's 2. I've been waiting for 4.
Yeah, so you've had more than I have. So
in like a sub-series of a series. Like, Metroid is one of Nintendo's more neglected franchises, and there's been... how many games?
Probably like 13.
Yeah, I know.
Pretty close to that, yeah.
Oh my god, no kidding.
Well, it's one of those franchises that is like non-existent in Japan.
Yeah.
People in Japan don't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
It's purely the North American audience that caters to Prime.
Yeah.
And in recent years, Nintendo's not done well in North America until the Switch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Metroid's been kind of ignored for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last Metroid game was 2010 or 2011 or something.
Yeah, whenever I mean, unless we're counting remakes
or Federation Force, but that's not really a...
Yeah.
Well, besides Samus Returns. That is a true
that's
Metroid
what I mean. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah, that is a remake, yeah. I often forget it's a remake because I never played Metroid 2.
It's really good. I should finish that one.
Well, that's pretty much all I had to say. Anybody have any comments? Final remarks?
Questions, concerns? Not really.
No.
Just give me an Okami 2 and I'll be happy.
Okay. Well then, fuck off.
Wow, you're so nice today, aren't you? Shit.
I don't know. I'm bad at outros.
Gotta lay him down for his nap.
I never know what to do on an outro.
I don't think anyone's really good at like outros, because it's either something abrupt like that or it's like you're back in high school. Like, in conclusion, I believe that WarioWare Gold is the game of the year for the reasons I outlined in the 3 paragraphs.
Well,
thank you and goodbye.
That's how I ended all of my essays.
Even on your final exams.
Yeah. And that's why I never graduated.